On September 3rd, 2210, I was waiting at Narita Airport. A man was arrested by the police. His name is Kamitani Kenji, a suspect who was internationally wanted as the prime suspect in a murder case that occurred 17 years ago. He had been on the run in South Africa. Kamitani, the suspect, fled Japan right after the incident involving criminal extradition. He had been hiding in South Africa, which lacks an extradition treaty, but this time he turned himself in for unknown reasons. He was either arrested or ran out of money in Japan after being on the run for 17 years, realizing he couldn't escape anymore. How did he spend his time, and was the incident he caused really such a big deal? The reason he turned himself in wasn't because he felt guilty or anything like that. It was for his own selfish reasons. On October 4th, 2003, a passerby discovered a human right arm on a street in Okutama town, Nishitama district, Tokyo, in what became known as the Tokyo serial dismemberment incident. A member of the Yakuza discovered it. As a result of the investigation, the person was identified. It was Mr. Nobu Ogawa. At the time, he was a 26-year-old restaurant worker and he was planning to open a high-class club in Roppongi, Tokyo. The police immediately began investigating Mr. Ogawa's background, and soon it was discovered that Mr. Ogawa was involved in some trouble. The trouble was that while he was preparing to open a high-class club, there was someone who suspected him of stealing credit card information from customers. That person was upset because their relationship with Mr. Ogawa had been cut off and they held a grudge against him. So the person involved in that trouble was Suspect 29 and Suspect Matsui Tomoyuki, 31, were discovered by Mr. Ogawa. The police tracked the two suspects, but they had already escaped Japan. Warrants were immediately issued for their arrest. Through Interpol, they issued an international wanted notice. Simultaneously, they interviewed and investigated the two suspects' associates, uncovering new case facts. It was discovered that, including the two suspects, a total of 15 people were involved in this case. Out of this criminal group, 11 people had previously been involved in credit card fraud and forging cards. Some members of this group were arrested together as they tried to flee after committing the crime. About 3 months after the incident occurred on January 8th, 24th year, those involved in the case were identified. Among the 15 people, 2 were minors, 8 were arrested. Miss Ogawa, a victim, had a right arm injury. About a month earlier in September, she was lured by this criminal group. She was confined in an apartment in Toda City, Saitama Prefecture on September 19th. In response to the ransom demand from the main suspects, Kamiya and Matsui, she shook her head firmly and refused. Miss Ogawa was driven to Yamanashi Prefecture, where she was strangled to death. The body was dismembered and abandoned in pieces. According to the suspect's statements, the head of the body was also disposed of. The skeletal remains were discovered in Ogawamura. The suspects were apprehended in the same prefecture, according to their confession. Several of our people were involved in another case. The suspicion is growing stronger, but the Tokyo Shinjuku ward homeless man murder case occurs. On May 27th, about 3 months ago, the victim owned a snack bar while Mr. Sanjuhachi was singing and dancing in Shinjuku. After leaving town, his whereabouts became unknown, and his family filed a missing person report, but he had not been found. According to their statements, that's when he disappeared. On that day, they committed a violent act at a hotel in Yutamachi before going to a home in Tamaken Chichigocho where the victim died. 2 girls were also suspected, but 1 was released due to lack of evidence. So far, 12 out of 15 people have been arrested. The arrested criminal group members remained silent. The main suspects, Kamitani and Matsui, have not been arrested yet. In October 2003, the trio responsible for the Ogawa incident left Japan intending to reach South Africa via Hawaii. All 3 were internationally wanted for crimes such as murder, but among them, one of them was arrested in Hawaii for illegal credit card use. On June 4, 2004, after completing his sentence, he was deported to Japan and arrested. The remaining suspects are Yutani and Matsui. As I mentioned earlier, there is no extradition treaty for criminals between South Africa and Japan. Even if it's known that the criminal is in South Africa, they can't be forcibly extradited, so the only way is... The law is based on mutual cooperation through diplomatic channels, so even if it's known that someone is in that country, the police can't do anything about it. As a result, more and more time is passing without any progress, and it seems like the clock towards solving the case has stopped. In this instance, the clock's hands resumed moving after the case was discovered, as if something had triggered it. About 8 years later, on November 1st, 2011, a woman was detained upon entering Japan. It turned out that this woman was connected to the 2 internationally wanted individuals, and she explained that she had been hiding with them in South Africa. The 2 were in Durban, South Africa, running a used car import and sales business in the city to make a living. Since about June 2011, they had been living apart, hiding in separate locations. The 19-year-old woman was on the run when the incident occurred. Details about her were provided. She informed an acquaintance in South Africa of her intention to flee the country. She was detained at Narita Airport. This happened on November 23rd. Due to the woman's difficulty testifying about the assault and her intentions and the lack of sufficient evidence, she was released without charges. However, there's more to the story. When they tried to get information from a man who knew suspect Yutaka Kamitani, the man said over the phone that he was being threatened by him, was in a panic, and was fleeing to South Africa. That's what he confessed, bringing it to light. At the end of 2011, the police confirmed their whereabouts and tried to arrange for their extradition. Investigators were sent to the place where the two were believed to be hiding, but as a result, while their whereabouts were confirmed, they were unable to obtain consent for extradition. This is where the problem arose. That was related to the death penalty system. In South Africa, the death penalty is prohibited as it is considered cruel and inhumane. The system was abolished in 1994. In Japan, the death penalty remains a possible maximum sentence. Extradition is not possible without a treaty that refuses the death penalty. Since there was no such restriction, extradition was difficult and Japan would not simply sign off on it. The retrial process stalled once more with no progress. The two individuals involved would not face arrest as long as they stayed in South Africa. There was a sense of despair among the investigators, but suddenly the case began to move toward a resolution. On August 21st, 2012, after 17 years, they were still on the run, living their lives. Yutaka Kamitani, a suspect, surrendered at the Japanese embassy in Pretoria, South Africa, ending his prolonged escape and seeking to return to Japan. Yutaka Kamitani, who lost his job due to the current global situation, decided to end his life on the run. He said he couldn't make a living anymore, so he turned himself in. He left South Africa on September 1st, and after a connecting flight, he returned to Japan on the 3rd and was arrested, rapidly developing the case. In this case, only suspect Matsui remains. Police will keep questioning suspect Kamitani about Matsui. Suspect Kamiya stated that he does not know what suspect Matsui is doing. A woman who was acquainted with both of them spoke about this. The details match, suggesting the two had separated by 2011, further complicating the situation. Police are still investigating the case's circumstances. The investigation into Kanaya's involvement is ongoing, and the search for Matsui's whereabouts has not yet concluded. New info on Matsui is coming in. Kanaya is also expected to appear. About 4 months ago, in May 2010, information was received at the police station from South Africa. It was believed that it might be Matsui. The information suggested that Matsui might have died by suicide by jumping into the sea off the South African coast in December 2016. I'm truly sorry for the trouble. I've seen the letter that said, "I'm sorry," and the name was written on it. The fingerprints also match, so from now on, the police will be investigating the identification of Mr. A. This case had long been considered an unsolved incident. The fact that it was solved after 17 years is a major development. While I believe that if the suspect had fled abroad, there was a good chance they would have evaded capture, I also considered that possibility. We need to quickly establish a cooperative system with other countries so that we can respond effectively. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching.